The Los Angeles Stadium glowed like a beacon that night, its floodlights painting the track in gold. The air buzzed with anticipation, thick with the scent of fresh-cut grass and the hum of 1,000 voices, reporters, fans, teammates. I stood at the center of it all, Laura Bennett, 32, Olympic silver medalist, my blue uniform crisp against my skin. The cameras flashed, their lenses catching every angle of my smile, and for a moment I felt untouchable. This was the press conference before the next Olympics, my chance to shine again. But beneath the glitter, something was wrong. My marriage to Mark, my coach, my partner of 10 years, was a fragile shell, and I'd been too blind to see it crack. Before I go any further, I want to connect with you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what happens next. I'd spent a decade running for this moment, every sprint, every sacrifice, tied to Mark. He was my rock, the man who'd pushed me to that silver medal, who'd promised we'd conquer the world together. But as he stepped to the microphone, his broad frame commanding the stage, I felt a chill. His eyes avoided mine, his smile too tight. The crowd hushed, hanging on his words. Then he spoke, his voice warm, intimate, a tone I hadn't heard in years. "I couldn't have done this without Chloe," he said, "my new love, my inspiration." The world stopped. Chloe, the name sliced through me, sharp and cold. Chloe, the 24-year-old sprinter on our team, with her red lipstick and effortless grace. The cameras swung to me, their lenses like vultures, capturing the shock I couldn't hide. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs, as the crowd's whispers grew into a roar. I saw her then, standing off stage, her eyes glinting under the lights, a faint smirk curling her lips. She didn't need to say a word. She'd won, and I was the fool left standing. My mind reeled, memories flashing like a broken reel. Mark's late-night strategy meetings. The way he'd linger near Chloe, his laughter brighter, sharper, the subtle distance in his touch growing colder with every season. How had I missed it? 10 years of trust, of sweat-soaked mornings and shared dreams, and now, in front of the world, he'd torn it apart. The air tasted bitter, metallic, the scent of grass now suffocating. My knees buckled, but I forced myself to stand, my nails biting into my palms, drawing blood. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice was gone, trapped behind a smile I'd perfected for years. The stadium's lights burned hotter, the crowd's pity a weight I couldn't shake. Mark kept talking, praising Chloe's vision, each word a needle in my skin. I felt their eyes, hundreds, thousands, stripping me bare, their murmurs a chorus of judgment. My chest tightened, each breath a battle against the urge to run, but I didn't. Not yet. I walked off the stage, my steps mechanical, the tunnel's cold concrete swallowing me whole. Alone, I leaned against the wall, my hands shaking, the echo of the crowd fading into a dull throb. 10 years, I whispered, my voice raw. 10 years, and this is what I get? The world didn't stop spinning after that night, but it felt like it should have. 1 month later, I was no longer Laura Bennett, the Olympic silver medalist. I was the woman betrayed on live TV, the headline splashed across tabloids, the punchline on social media. My tiny apartment in Los Angeles became my cage, its peeling walls closing in around me. The air smelled of stale coffee and dust, the kind that settles when you've stopped caring. I sat on my worn-out sofa, the springs creaking under my weight, scrolling through my phone. Each comment stung like a slap. Laura Bennett, washed-up has-been. She couldn't keep her man or her career. The words blurred as my eyes burned, but I couldn't look away. It was like picking at a wound, knowing it would hurt but needing to feel something. Outside, the city roared. Car horns, distant sirens, the pulse of a life I no longer belonged to. I'd withdrawn from the Olympics, a decision that felt like cutting out a piece of my soul. The track was my home, my sanctuary, but now it was tainted, stained with Mark's betrayal and Chloe's smug smile. I saw them everywhere, on TV, in magazines, their faces beaming as they posed at training camps. Mark, with his polished grin, talking about new beginnings. Chloe, her red hair catching the light, laughing as if she'd won more than just his heart. They were the golden couple now, and I was the footnote, the failure left behind. I avoided mirrors. My reflection was a stranger, pale skin, dark circles under my eyes, my once strong shoulders slumped. I hadn't run in weeks. My running shoes sat untouched in the corner, their laces frayed, a reminder of the woman I used to be. I kept replaying that press conference, dissecting every moment. The way Mark's voice softened when he said her name, the way Chloe stood just out of my reach, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. Had they planned it? Had they laughed behind my back, plotting the moment that would break me? The questions gnawed at me, each one a splinter in my mind. I wanted to hate them, to let rage consume me, but hate was heavy, and I was already drowning. Instead, I felt hollow, like the wind could blow right through me. I'd given Mark 10 years. 10 years of early mornings, grueling workouts, and quiet nights planning our future. I'd trusted him, not just as my husband, but as my coach, the man who knew every beat of my heart. And now, he was gone. And I didn't know who I was without him. But then, one night, something shifted. I was lying on my lumpy mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, when a memory flickered. My first coach, Ms. Harper, a woman with steel in her eyes and warmth in her voice. I was 14, scrawny and scared, running on a dirt track in my hometown. I'd fallen, scraped my knees raw, and wanted to quit. She knelt beside me, her hands steady on my shoulders, and said, "Laura, you can clear any hurdle, not just on the track, but in life. Don't let the fall define you." Her words echoed now, sharp and clear, cutting through the fog in my mind. I sat up, my heart racing. She was right. I wasn't done, not yet. That memory was a lifeline pulling me out of the darkness. I started thinking about the kids I'd seen growing up, kids like me from rough neighborhoods, who never had a chance to run, to dream. What if I could give them that? What if I could build something bigger than myself, something Mark couldn't touch? The idea took root, growing stronger with every breath. A track academy for underprivileged kids. A place where they could run free, where they could find their strength. I called it Run Free Academy, and just saying the name out loud made my chest feel lighter. I didn't have much. A few $1,000s in savings, a battered laptop, and a dream. But I had grit, the kind forged on the track, mile after mile. I spent days researching, calling community centers, sketching plans on napkins. My apartment, once a prison, became a war room, papers scattered across the floor. I even smiled sometimes, a real smile, the kind I hadn't felt in months. Then I met Ethan. He was a local businessman, a former college athlete who'd heard about my idea through a mutual friend. We met at a coffee shop, the kind with mismatched chairs and the smell of burnt espresso. He was tall, with kind eyes, and a quiet confidence, nothing like Mark's flashy charm. He listened as I pitched the academy, my voice shaking with passion. "It's ambitious," he said, leaning forward, his coffee untouched. "But it's needed. Those kids deserve a shot. Just know it won't be easy. Money's tight for projects like this." His honesty was a relief, grounding me. He offered to help find sponsors, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone. Run Free Academy opened with 10 kids, their sneakers pounding a dusty gym floor we'd rented on a shoestring budget. Their laughter filled the air, raw and unfiltered, and I felt something stir inside me, a spark of purpose. But standing there, watching them run, I knew this was just the beginning. The academy needed more funds, more space, more time. And I needed more too, more strength to keep going. The world had seen me fall, but could I build something that would make them forget? Or was this just a dream too big for a woman like me? 6 months had passed since I walked away from that press conference, but the weight of it still clung to me like damp clothes after a storm. Run Free Academy was alive, though. 30 kids now, their sneakers pounding the creaky wooden floor of our rented gym in Los Angeles. The air smelled of sweat and fresh paint, a strange mix of grit and hope. I stood by the foggy mirror, watching them run drills, their laughter cutting through the hum of the city outside. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something real, purpose maybe, or the ghost of the woman I used to be. But purpose doesn't pay the bills, and that truth was closing in fast. The gym was a patchwork of dreams and desperation. The walls were scuffed, the equipment secondhand, but the kids didn't care. They ran with a fire I recognized, the kind I'd felt on the Olympic track. Among them was Mia, a 14-year-old with skinny legs and eyes that rarely met mine. She was quiet, always lingering at the back, her shoulders hunched like she was carrying a weight no one could see. But when she ran, something shifted. Her strides were fluid, powerful, like she was chasing something bigger than herself. I saw myself in her, scared, but hungry for a chance. I wanted to give her that, to give all of them that. But every day I woke up wondering if I'd fail them. Money was the problem. Our biggest sponsor, a local sports store, pulled out last week, their email curt and final: budget cuts. I read it at 2 a.m., the blue light of my laptop burning my eyes, my stomach twisting. Without them, we couldn't cover rent, let alone new equipment. I pictured the gym's doors locked, the kids' faces when I told them it was over. My hands shook as I closed the laptop, the silence of my apartment deafening. I'd poured everything into this, my savings, my heart, my hope. Was it all for nothing? Then Mark made it worse. I was flipping through channels one night, trying to drown out my thoughts, when his face filled the screen. A sports talk show, bright lights, his polished smile. The host asked about my academy, and Mark leaned back, his laugh sharp as glass. "Laura thinks she's a coach now?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "It's a joke, a desperate grab for attention from someone who couldn't hack it." The words landed like punches, each one bruising something deep inside me. I turned off the TV, but his voice echoed, stirring doubts I'd tried to bury. Was he right? Was I just pretending, clinging to a dream that was never mine? I wanted to scream, to call him out, to prove him wrong, but rage wouldn't save the academy. I had to fight smarter. So I came up with a plan, a charity run to raise funds. It was a long shot, but it was something. I spent days organizing, calling local businesses, begging for donations. My voice cracked on every call, but I kept going, driven by the image of Mia's shy smile when she nailed a sprint. Ethan helped, his steady presence a lifeline. He showed up at the gym one morning, his dark jacket flecked with rain, a stack of sponsor contacts in hand. "You're not alone in this, Laura," he said, his voice low but firm. "Those kids need you, and I believe in what you're doing." His words were simple, but they steadied me, like a hand on my shoulder when I was about to fall. The charity run was set for a Saturday, the streets of Los Angeles mapped out in my mind. I worked with the kids, especially Mia, who was terrified of running in front of a crowd. "I'll mess up," she whispered one day, her fingers twisting the hem of her shirt. I knelt beside her, the gym's dusty air tickling my nose, and said, "Mia, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to run. I'll be right there with you." She nodded, but her eyes were still shadowed with doubt. I knew that fear, the kind that makes you feel small. I'd felt it at the press conference, under the weight of those cameras. I wasn't going to let it win this time. The day of the run dawned bright, the sun glinting off the city's glass towers. The streets were alive with color, runners in neon shirts, banners flapping in the breeze, the sharp tang of sunscreen in the air. I stood at the starting line, my heart pounding, watching Mia shift nervously beside me. The crowd cheered, their voices a warm wave, and for a moment, I felt the old thrill of the track. The whistle blew, and we ran. Mia's strides lengthened, her fear giving way to focus. I kept pace, my lungs burning, my eyes locked on her. When she crossed the finish line, her face broke into a grin, raw and unguarded. The crowd roared, and I felt tears prick my eyes. This was why I was here. We raised enough to keep the gym open, for now. That night I sat on my sofa, the city's hum softer through the window, and let myself breathe. Mia's smile lingered in my mind, a reminder of what we'd built. But then my phone buzzed, a message from a friend. "Laura, you need to see this." It was an email, forwarded from a sponsor, hinting that Mark was pulling strings, whispering to investors to back away from the academy. My blood ran cold. He wasn't done with me yet. Could I protect this dream, these kids, from the man who'd already taken so much? 1 year after I walked away from that press conference, I stood at the edge of a new kind of battlefield. Run Free Academy was no longer just a dream. It was real, alive, and about to host its first track meet in a Los Angeles stadium. The air was sharp with the scent of fresh paint and mowed grass, the floodlights casting long shadows across the track. The stands buzzed with families, local reporters, and kids in bright jerseys, their chatter a warm hum against the evening chill. I wore a simple black jacket, my hair pulled back, but inside my heart raced like I was about to run the 400-meter myself. 30 kids, my kids, were ready to compete, and Mia, my shy 14-year-old star, was among them, her eyes wide but determined. This was our moment, our chance to show the world what we'd built. But a shadow loomed, threatening to unravel it all. I'd woken that morning to a sickening discovery. A late-night email from a sponsor, forwarded by Ethan, revealed Mark's latest move. He'd been whispering to investors, twisting their trust, urging them to pull funding from the academy. Unstable leadership, he'd called me, his words slithering through the message like poison. A risky investment. My hands trembled as I read it, the glow of my laptop screen harsh against the darkness of my apartment. The city outside was quiet, but inside me, a storm raged. Mark wasn't just content to humiliate me. He wanted to destroy what I'd built, to erase me completely. Why? Was it guilt? Control? Or just the thrill of watching me break again? The questions clawed at me, each one sharper than the last. I paced my apartment, the floorboards creaking under my steps, the air heavy with the faint smell of yesterday's coffee. My reflection caught in the window, tired eyes, clenched jaw. I'd spent a year rebuilding, pouring my soul into this academy, into these kids. Mia's hesitant smile, the way she'd started to believe in herself, flashed in my mind. I couldn't let Mark take that away. But doubt crept in, cold and familiar. What if I wasn't enough? What if this meet, this moment, was just another stage for me to fail, like that press conference a year ago? The weight of those cameras, those pitying eyes, pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. Ethan found me later that day, outside the stadium, my hands stuffed in my pockets as I stared at the track. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink. He didn't say much at first, just stood beside me, his presence steady, grounding. Then he spoke, his voice soft but clear. "I know what it's like to lose something you love," he said, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "I was a runner too in college, blew out my knee before nationals, thought it was the end of me." I turned to him, surprised. He'd never shared that before. "But you find new ways to run, Laura. You're doing that now for those kids. You don't need a medal to prove who you are." His words hit deep, loosening the knot in my chest. For the first time, I saw him differently, not just a sponsor, but someone who understood. The meet began at dusk, the stadium alive with energy. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, calling out names, the crowd roaring with each race. I stood by the track, my clipboard forgotten in my hands, my eyes locked on Mia. She was nervous, her fingers tugging at her jersey, but she nodded when I squeezed her shoulder. "You've got this," I whispered, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The starting gun cracked, and she was off, her strides long and fierce, cutting through the air like a blade. The crowd surged, their cheers a tidal wave, and I ran alongside the sidelines, my heart pounding in sync with her steps. When Mia crossed the finish line a full second ahead, the stadium erupted. Gold. She'd done it. Her face broke into a grin, raw and radiant, and I felt tears burn my eyes. This wasn't my victory, it was hers, theirs, ours. The meet was a triumph. Every kid ran their heart out, and the academy gained new sponsors, their offers flooding in as the night wore on. I stood in the center of the track, the stadium lights warm against my skin, watching families hug their kids, reporters scribbling notes. Ethan appeared beside me, a water bottle in hand, his smile quiet but proud. "You did it, Laura," he said, his voice barely audible over the crowd. I looked at him, his eyes catching the light, and something stirred in me, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. But the sweetest victory came later. Days after the meet, my phone lit up with notifications. Headlines, not about me but about Mark. Olympic coach exposed for shady tactics, one read. His attempts to sabotage the academy had backfired. His whispers to sponsors leaked to the press. His reputation crumbled, his polished image tarnished. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Standing there in the quiet of my apartment, I felt a weight lift. Justice, not revenge, had found him. As I watched Mia's gold medal glint in her hand, I realized something. This track, these kids, this fight, it was my new race. And I was running it not for Mark, not for the world, but for me. But was this the end? Or was there another hurdle waiting just out of sight? 2 years after that night at the press conference, I stood on a stage in San Francisco, the lights bright and unforgiving, much like the ones that had pinned me down when Mark shattered my world. But this time I wasn't trembling. I wore a navy sports jacket, my hair loose, my hands steady as I gripped the microphone. The conference hall was packed. Coaches, athletes, educators, their eyes fixed on me, not with pity, but with something else. Respect maybe. Hope. The air smelled of polished wood and coffee, the hum of the crowd a soft pulse beneath my words. I was Laura Bennett, not the betrayed Olympian, not the failure, but the woman who'd built Run Free Academy, a beacon for hundreds of kids who'd found their strength on our track. This was my new race, and I was running it on my terms. Run Free Academy had grown beyond my wildest dreams. The gym, once a creaky, borrowed space, was now a state-of-the-art training center, its track gleaming under the California sun. The air there carried the sharp tang of rubber and sweat, the sound of sneakers pounding in rhythm, the laughter of kids who'd once thought they'd never have a chance. Mia, my quiet 14-year-old star, was 16 now, an assistant coach with a confidence I'd helped nurture. I'd watch her guide a new runner, her voice patient but firm, and feel a swell of pride so fierce it hurt. We weren't just training athletes. We were building futures, proving that a rough start didn't mean a rough finish. But standing on that stage, I wasn't just there to talk about the academy. I was there to tell my story, to strip it bare for the world. My voice trembled at first, the memories still raw. I described that press conference, the sting of Mark's words, the weight of those cameras. I thought losing him was the end, I said, my throat tight. But it was the beginning. It forced me to find myself, to build something bigger than medals or headlines. The crowd was silent, leaning forward, and I felt their connection, their own unspoken battles echoing mine. I ended with the truth I'd learned. Success isn't the medals you win, it's the people you inspire. The applause was deafening, a wave that washed over me, warm and grounding. For the first time, I didn't need the world's approval. I had my own. Back at the academy, life felt different. The track was my home again, but not as a runner, as a coach, a mentor, a believer in second chances. I'd walk the grounds at dusk, the sky streaked with purple, the air cooling against my skin, and feel a quiet peace. Mia would join me sometimes, her gold medal now a keepsake, her dreams bigger than any race. "You changed everything for me," she told me once, her voice soft as we sat on the bleachers, the stadium empty around us. I didn't know how to respond, so I just hugged her, my eyes stinging. She wasn't just my student. She was my proof that broken things could heal stronger. Ethan was part of that healing, too. We'd started dating a few months after the track meet, our connection growing slowly, rooted in respect. He wasn't like Mark, all flash and promises. Ethan was steady, his laughter warm, his presence a calm I hadn't known I needed. One evening, as we walked the track, the lights casting long shadows, he took my hand. "You're a champion, Laura," he said, his eyes catching the glow of the stadium. "Not because of what you've won, but because of who you are." His words settled in me, soft but certain, and I felt my heart open, just a little, to something new. We weren't rushing, but we were building, step by step, like a race run with care. Mark was a distant memory now. The headlines had faded, his name tied to scandal, his career a cautionary tale. I didn't follow his fall, didn't need to. My victory wasn't his ruin. It was this track, these kids, this life I'd carved from the ashes. I'd thought his betrayal would define me, but it had only set me free. As I stood on our track one evening, watching a new group of kids train, their shouts echoing in the twilight, I smiled. The air was crisp, the stars just beginning to pierce the sky. I wasn't the woman who'd stood frozen under those press conference lights. I was Laura Bennett, coach, dreamer, survivor. I'd run my race, not for applause or revenge, but for the kids who'd become my family, for the woman I'd become. And as I watched them sprint, their faces alight with possibility, I knew this wasn't the end, it was a beginning.